Hey everybody, Papa Wiggs here with Wiggs. We're going to talk about week 3 games here starting today into tomorrow. So, with that, let's jump right in. First game we're going to talk about here is the Giants at the Browns. This is going to be interesting game. The Giants looked a little bit better last week. Uh, I think Neighbors is the real deal. I don't know about you, Wiggs, but I think they're going to struggle a little bit against this Browns defense, though. I think the Browns defense is going to force Danny Dimes into making some mistakes. I expect that Watson will hopefully play better like he did last week. I'm hoping to see him and Judy have a good connection this week. I think Judy's definitely a big time sleeper this week, potential flex option if you need in your leagues. It'll be interesting to see how they run Ford and Foreman because there's kind of a debate going on. I think Foreman's taken on a bigger role than people suspected for sure. And then for the Giants, I think Neighbors is definitely come to life here, and I think he'll continue. I like that combination, like I said before, of him and Robinson at receiver. It'll be interesting to see what Singletary does in this game. I'm not expecting that this is going to be a very high scoring game. That's just my opinion. I'm thinking, maybe 20-14. Uh, I've got the Browns. Now, Wiggs over here, again, I don't know what he's smoking. He picked the Giants. So, Wiggs, did you want to talk about that?
I just have this weird feeling that they are one of these teams this week that could have a potential upset. I am not really impressed by the Browns' offense whatsoever, and I think both these defenses honestly aren't bad. Even the Giants' defense wasn't looking terrible these first few weeks. They're playing an offense that kind of like last week that isn't really that great at the moment. So um, I could see them keeping it close like they did with Washington last week, and then possibly pulling off an upset here. So I'm just going with my gut here and thinking, oh, we're gonna see Neighbors for one touchdown, 100 yards again, and then maybe Wandale Robinson with a big game as well. Danny Dimes might even look good in this game. I can't believe I just said that either, but it's just a weird gut feeling I have going on, and I think it's going to be a 24-21 game.
Well, I'll agree with you on one thing. I think Wendell Robinson has the potential to have a decent game. That Browns defensive backfield's not bad. I think they're going to be focused on Neighbors, so I can see Robinson having a game. I still think Neighbors is going to have a good game, but I think Robinson's going to be actively involved. I don't disagree with you, Wiggs. They could pull up an upset. It wouldn't surprise me with the way things have been going this year. So to me, I think Robinson and Judy are the two guys kind of keep an eye on in this game that might be potential surprises. So with that, let's jump into the next game, and that's the Eagles versus the Saints. Again, another difference here between me and Wiggs. I got the Saints winning at home against the Eagles. He's got the Eagles. Listen, I had the Eagles have if they had Brown, I might be a little bit more leaning towards giving them this one. I think not having Brown against this Saints defense is going to be a huge disadvantage for Philadelphia. Uh, they need somebody to step up, outside of Devontae Smith on the receiving core. Dotson didn't do it last week. They brought in, they got a couple other guys, but nobody really stepped up. If the Eagles want to have a chance, the guy that this is my prediction, the guy that they need to have step up in their passing game is Goddard. They need Goddard to step up and have a good game against this tough Saints defense. If Goddard has a really good game, then the Eagles got a shot. Also, they're going to have to rely on Saquon, I think, in this game as well in the passing game. I don't know that he's going to, I think between rushing and receiving, he'll probably have over 100 yards. and stuff, but I don't think it's going to be enough to beat the Saints. On the flip side, there hasn't nobody's been able to stop the Saints offense. I mean, it's crazy, and Kamara's just been going off, and I just don't know that the Eagles defense is going to be able to stop him. So he's definitely out trying to prove something this year, and I think he's going to continue in this game. I think this one actually has the potential to be kind of a high scoring game. So I'm going to say, you know, maybe 33-24. The Saints win at home.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this will be a higher scoring game. And like you said, I think Goddard really needs to step up here on this Eagles offense. Last week it was a guy that I don't. It was gosh, I can't even remember his name off the top of my head that stepped up there at the wide receiver too, but he didn't put up a lot of yards. I think it was Covert, their wide receiver 4. He took on a bigger role than Dotson last week, which really shocked me. I thought Dotson was going to be that solid wide receiver 2 throughout the game. I thought he was actually going to have a really good game, and out of nowhere, their wide receiver 4 comes out and just outperforms them. Not like by crazy numbers, but he caught the ball 5 times for like 35 yards, and you just need Goddard to step up. He was one of your better weapons the last few years, and you really haven't gotten him the ball too much. I don't know if that's because he's not getting open or what it is, but this Eagles offense has seemed to struggle so far here. I think that's going to change a little bit here this week, even with A.J. Brown being out. I think Devontae Smith's going to have another good game. I think we're going to be seeing Goddard have a solid game. And make sure to keep Barkley involved in that passing game. I think they kind of went away from it a little bit last week. But I think keeping him involved is always going to be big. And then you also have Gainwell still there coming out of the backfield. And I think your best bet is going to be getting your playmakers the ball. And if I'm the Eagles, I need to design something around Dallas Goedert early in the game and get him the ball like 2 or 3 times right away on that first drive, because then that's just going to help open up your receivers for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I think the key here is 2 things for the Eagles. They Goddard's got to have a really good game, and they got to find a way to at least contain Kamara. If they can't contain Kamara in this game, they're not going to have a shot.
I agree with you.
So I mean, if Kamara has a big game today, the Saints are going to win. If they can contain Kamara and at least force Derek Carr into trying to get the ball to Shaheed or Olave, then they might have a shot. But but until somebody can show me that they can contain Kamara, to me the Saints are a surprise team so far this early in the year.
They definitely are, because I don't think any of us really expected, especially with how much we doubted Derek Carr. Not that he's put up crazy numbers, but I mean, last week he was averaging like over 20 yards completion or something like that, or like he's came out and played. He's found Shaheed quite a bit. I think Shaheed's really his wide receiver 1 right now, aside from Kamara. Like, I don't know, the Saints offense has impressed so far. I don't even think I had them winning either one of the first 2 weeks, so they've come out and proven me wrong already. And like you said, I think this will be high scoring. I could see it being like I want to say like 36 to like 28 game, something like that, 35 to 28.
Yeah, I agree. The Eagles need to get Brown back though, because they're not the same offense without Brown. So, well, with that, let's jump into the next game. Our good old Minnesota Vikings against the Houston Texans at home. The Vikings are at home against them. Listen, Wiggs has got the Vikings winning. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not convinced. Sorry. I mean, listen, I've been a Vikings fan since I came out of the womb. And but I've also had, just like every old school Vikings fan, there's been our fair share of disappointment and stuff. And I'm not sold on Darnold yet. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, he looked good last week against San Francisco. I mean, he didn't look bad. I'm just not sold. I'm not sold on him yet. I don't think that that I still think that he's going to be making mistakes. I think the Texans defense is going to come out. They're going to put pressure on him. Danielle Hunter's going to be fired up in this game because he's coming home Stephon Diggs, Cam Akers. I mean, these guys are going to be fired up because they're coming back to US Bank Stadium, especially Danielle Hunter and Diggs. I think Hunter's going to wreak havoc against our offensive line all day today. I think, what is it, Will Anderson, I think it is, or their other defensive end is going to wreak havoc. I think we're going to have our hands full. I think today, and this is just my prediction, and I'm not knocking them and stuff, I just think that the more pressure teams get on Darnold, the more mistakes he's going to make. And I think today is going to be one of those days. I think Darnold's going to throw 2 to 3 interceptions today. I think he's going to struggle. We don't have Addison, with Jefferson. So Naylor's going to have to step up. We're still down Hawkinson. We really don't have a tight end that's stepping up here. Jones and Chandler are doing okay, but Jones didn't have a great game last week. So if the Vikings want to have a shot this week, they got to figure out how to get Jones going in the backfield and make sure that they can get the rushing game going to help out Darnold. I just don't see it happening. I think that the Texans are going to come out and Stroud is going to pick apart our defense. I think they're going to try to pressure Stroud. Stroud's going to take advantage of that. I think he's got the receivers and the tight ends to do that. Yes, he's down 2 running backs, but I think Cam Akers is a viable replacement for those running backs. So yeah, they do have that going for them, but I just don't think the Vikings are going to be able to pull it off. I think that this is going to, this has the potential to be, a few more points and stuff because you got Justin Jefferson. You just never know there. But I think it's going to be, I could see this, 30-21 maybe. The Texans winning this one, coming in here and stealing one here at US Bank Stadium.
I'm on the other side of the spectrum, but it's not for reasons I thought I would be on the other side of it for. Last week I went against the Vikings when they played the 49ers. I haven't lost to the 49ers since at home, at least since I think before I was born. So this week I'm going to go with the statistics of the fact that the Vikings have never lost to the Texans. And yeah, that's really just my only reason on why I picked the Vikings this week. So I agree with you. They're going to be getting a ton of pressure from the Texans defense. I think we're going to actually see a lot of checkdowns to Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler today. I think Jones will go for over 100 combined yards and a touchdown because I think he's going to have to be heavily involved in the passing game today. I think Justin Jefferson's going to have a bit of a slower game. I think he's going to be around 60 to 75 yards, a possible touchdown in there. I just think this Texans defense is going to be giving him a lot of attention because nothing against the rest of our receivers, but they really haven't fully proven themselves yet. So I can see Jefferson pulling a lot of double teams here in this game. Like you said, Naylor's going to have to step up. If he doesn't step up, they're going to struggle. Our tight ends are going to have to do something. I wouldn't doubt it if we maybe saw a lot of offensive drives where we maybe have an extra tight end on the field just because of how much pressure we're getting. So I would expect a lot of shorter plays here in this game, and if they don't, I agree with you. I think Darnold will have a few mistakes. But like I said, the main reason I picked them is just because statistically we haven't lost to the Texans. I went against that last week with the 49ers stat, so it's the only reason I really picked the Vikings today.
Well, okay. Well, I can respect that. I just don't think it's going to happen. Sorry, Vikings fans. I'm just, I'm a Vikings fan, but I'm also realistic, and I'm not sold on Darnold. And I think that you get enough pressure on Darnold, and he's going to make mistakes. And I see that happening today for sure. And I agree with Wiggs. I think Jefferson's going to, I don't think he's going to blow up today. He could. And here's the reason I don't think he's going to blow up. I don't think Darnold's going to have enough time to throw the ball to Jefferson, to be quite honest with you, to go deep. And if they do, run a lot of 2 tight end sets, like Wiggs said, which I agree, I think that they could do that. even if he does have time, there there's nobody else in the wide receiver um, room right now that's playing today that's garnered enough respect for the Texans to worry about them. So that's why they're going to focus on Jefferson, and it's going to be a struggle for our offense today. And just one more fun statistical stat: our defenses look good this year, yeah, pressure wise and stuff, but they have been one of the top defenses to give up a lot of receiving yards this year. I mean, I think they're the fifth worst in the league in receiving yards. Teams are averaging over 230 some yards a game against the Vikings defense. And given all the weapons that the Texans have, I just don't see them
I
stopping
will
them.
give the Vikings one thing. I think right now Sam Darnold has looked better than Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams kept the game close last week.
Oh, anyways, let's move on. We got the Broncos versus the Buccaneers. Hey, we actually agree on this one. We both got the Buccaneers, so that means the Broncos are probably going to win. But
Just our luck, you know.
anyways, listen, Tampa Bay's looked really good. Uh, Baker Mayfield's found a home. I think Mike Evans is going to struggle today, but Chris Godwin's going to have a good game. I also think that I could see, White and Bucky Irving out of the backfield doing really well. I think the surprise guy for me on the Buccaneers today might be Cade Otton. I think he has the potential of having a decent game. And on the flip side, if there's one good thing that's happened for the Broncos in this game is the Buccaneers have a couple of their starting linemen that are out, which could open up the window for Javonte Williams to have a decent game rushing, especially given that their big nose tackle is out, who's a huge monster against the rush. So that might be an advantage for the Broncos. I could see them trying to take advantage of that and maybe taking the pressure off of Nix and trying to run the ball a little bit more and keeping the time of possession on their end. If they do have success doing that, I give them a shot. I just don't think it's going to be enough, and I don't think their running backs have showed that they can be, consistent, right now. So that's why I'm going with the Buccaneers, even with those guys out on defense. I think their offense is just going to be a little bit too much at home. I don't think this is going to be a crazy high-scoring game. I think, you're looking at a 17-10 game here, and the Buccaneers out on top at home.
Yeah, and I think this will be like a 24-10 win. I just think the Buccaneers right now are clearly the better team. I haven't really seen too many like flashy plays or anything like that out of this Broncos offense. I mean, Bo Nix has thrown so many different times already this year. He still hasn't thrown for a single touchdown. I know we were talking about that stat earlier in the week. Oh, JJ still got as many passing touchdowns as like Caleb Williams and Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. Like, I don't know. They just can't finish a drive with a touchdown apparently. So for me, against the Buccaneers defense, who's looked pretty good already this year, I think they're just gonna struggle, and I just don't see them um, having a solid performance whatsoever here this week. Little side note here: Justin Herbert is starting today.
Oh, yeah. I knew that they were talking about it. I don't think it's going to make a difference, but um, yeah. Anyways, to me, the key to the game for the Broncos on this one is Javonte Williams. If Javonte Williams has a good game and he can run for over 100 yards, then the Broncos have a good shot at winning. If Javonte Williams struggles in this game against this injury-prone or injury-riddled defense of Tampa Bay, I don't think the Broncos stand a shot. So that's just my prediction there. So that takes us into the next game, the Titans versus the Packers. Again, we both agree on this one. We both picked the Packers. The Packers are at home. Listen, I picked the Packers on this one because I just haven't seen any kind of improvement from the Titans yet. Last week Ridley had a better game. I need to see something more out of their offense before I can start, picking the Titans with confidence. They're going up against a tough Packer defense, and they're at Lambeau Field, which isn't going to help them at all. I think Josh Jacobs, is going to probably. I think he could have a really good game here. I believe the Packers are still going to go with Malik Willis this week. I think they're going to give Love one more week before they bring him back because next week they got to play the Vikings, and I think they're going to wait to have Love play against the Vikings. So even with Malik Willis, I think Willis, he didn't light up the place last week, but he didn't make mistakes. I think that he's gonna do just enough to get the Packers a win. A Titans defense isn't bad, and stuff, but I don't think their offense is showing me enough where I can confidently pick them. So to me, the key for the Titans, if they want to have a shot, is they need Pollard to have a big game against this Packers defense because I think the Packers pass defense is going to give Levis all that he can handle. So if Pollard can have a decent game today, they might have a shot, but I'm not banking on that. So I don't. I'm not thinking this is going to be a crazy scoring game. I think maybe 2010 Green Bay.
Yeah, I can agree with that, and I'm disappointed by this Titans offense right now. Like, I know going into the season, you and I talked about how we thought this offense was going to be really good and how we thought they were going to be putting up a lot of points, and they really haven't done that yet to this point, and it's kind of sad to me because I feel like they haven't utilized both their running backs equally. I feel like they haven't designed plays around their wide receiver core. Like, they have all the talent in the world, and I just haven't seen them do anything to get the ball into everyone's hands. Really, like everyone on that offense is a playmaker. So I'm shocked that they haven't been performing. And for that reason, I went with the Packers, even with the backup quarterback. I just haven't seen anything out of this Titans offense, and it's really just disappointing. Their defense hasn't looked terrible, but when you can't finish a drive on offense and put up points, your defense can only do so much. So in my eyes, just because the Packers offense looks like they're better off even with the backup quarterback, I had to go with the Packers. I think this will be a lower scoring game. I think it's going to be like a 13-10 game. Malik Willis didn't do a whole lot last week in the passing game, and I don't think you can fully rely on Josh Jacobs the entire time because this is a tough defense to be playing against. So I think it'll be lower scoring, but I do think the Packers will still have the slight edge here in the game.
Yeah, and one side note, obviously, Willis is playing against his former team, the Titans, so I think he'll be a little bit more fired up. He can downplay it to the media throughout the week like he did, but deep down he's gonna be coming out fired up against his old team, the Titans. So, that to me is might give him a little bit of an edge, and like I said, if the Titans have even a shot here, they need to slow. They need to put it in Willis's hand and keep Jacobs, shut Jacobs down. So it'll be an interesting game. That leads us into the next game. The Bears against the Colts at Indianapolis. This was a tough game for me to pick. I know the Bears, Williams hasn't looked great and stuff, but I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a game where it just clicks and on their offense, and that's going to be the turning point. Is this the game? I don't know. This was a really hard for me to pick because the Colts haven't really been lighting up the world. The only reason I really picked the Colts in this game is because they're at home. I'm giving them the home field advantage. Thinking that okay, if their crowd gets into it, maybe that gives Williams a little bit, makes him struggle a little bit, with the crowd noise and stuff. And Richardson hasn't shown me anything outstanding this year so far. I think the key, is can Jonathan Taylor, get it going against this tough Bears defense. If Taylor gets it going against the Bears defense, I don't think this game's going to be close because I think the Bears might struggle, against the Colts defense, which isn't, that terrible. So on the flip side of things, I think Caleb Williams is really, he's got to show some consistency here. He's got to hit his receivers. He's got to be more accurate. He's got to get the ball to DJ Moore. Allen is out today, I believe. And so Udunzi has got to step up because he's going to be playing. So, they got to get Cole Kmet more involved. I think Swift will be okay. I'm not expecting anything great out of Swift today. To me, the key to the Bears having a chance in this game is, can Caleb Williams be accurate and consistent to his receivers, and can he get it to DJ Moore? Can he get it to Udunzi? Will he find Komet? And when he does find him, can he get him the ball? If he can do that, I'll give him that. That'll give him a shot. But I just don't know if this is the game where they start clicking or not. So I'm giving the edge to the Colts here, and I think it's going to be like a 17,
14 maybe.
something like that.
Yeah. I agree with you on the score. I think it's going to be 17-14. I could see it going either way. The deciding factor for me in this game is going to be which quarterback shows up to perform, because both of these guys so far have disappointed and haven't had a good year at all at this point. Richardson, from a passing perspective, has had a little more success. He has thrown for at least a touchdown here. So I guess you can give him a slight edge there right now. But both these quarterbacks, I would say, are on even playing ground. It's just a matter of who shows up today. I could see it going either way, really. I was debating back and forth. I didn't know who to pick, so I just flipped a coin, basically, and just went with the Bears, just because I do think DJ Moore and Udunzi are a better wide receiving duo than what the Colts have right now. But I also know Richardson likes to run the ball a lot, so I really don't think they have just a duo on that offense, or even a trio, because they do have depth. They have a good receiving core. It's never consistent with who Richardson throws the ball to, and he's only completed 50% of his passes so far this year, so it's kind of a toss up. But at the end of the day, I just think Williams might perform a little bit better today, and that's the only reason I'm giving him the slight edge, and the Bears the slight edge, because I think both their defenses are pretty even as well. So
yeah, I think the key here is if the Bears can hold Taylor under 100 yards rushing, then they'll have a shot. If Taylor has a big game and he rushes for over 100 yards, I don't think the Bears are going to have a shot. That's just my opinion. So that leads us into our next game, the Chargers versus the Steelers. And as Wiggs mentioned, Herbert is supposed to be starting today. That doesn't impact my decision. Listen, I like what Harbaugh's been doing with the Chargers. I think that Dobbins and Edwards have come to play. This Steelers defense is really tough. I think they're going to struggle today. Even with Herbert starting, I don't think he's 100%. He's got a high ankle sprain. You just don't recover from a high ankle sprain in a week. That just doesn't happen. And stuff. So I think he's not going to be as mobile as he usually is, and I think he could struggle because I think the rushing attack of the Chargers might have a difficult time running against this tough Steelers defense. Now, with that said, if Dobbins comes out and Edwards come out and they have a good game rushing, and they can keep the Steelers defense out on the field with the time of possession and tire them down, that might give them a shot. I just don't know that that's going to happen. I mean, not that the Steelers offense has been lighting it up, right, Wiggs? But Justin Fields is going to be starting it again for Pittsburgh. The one thing I will say is that Fields has come in and he's doing what he needs to do against these other teams to get the wins. And that's what he needs to do. Just don't make mistakes. Take what they give you. I actually agree with Wiggs and what he said in one of our earlier videos. I think Pickens might have a really good game today against this Chargers defense. I could see Fields finding him at least one time deep. I think that Freiermuth could have a decent game here for the Steelers. I think Harris is going to struggle rushing. I think Jaylen Warren is actually going to have a bigger game than Harris, and I think Warren's most of his yards are going to come off of screens and stuff. So I give the advantage to Pittsburgh because I just think that they're going to be able to adjust to the Chargers defense, and I think that their defense at home is just going to be too tough against too tough for the Chargers to overcome. So I do think this is going to be a low scoring game. I don't think we're going to be lighting up. I think this could be a 13-10 game. Something like that. Maybe even a 13-7 or something like that. But I give the edge to the Steelers.
Yeah, I give the edge to the Steelers just due to the simple fact that I think right now, um, they're just gonna be better in the passing game. Like you said, it's really hard to come back from a high ankle sprain and be perfectly fine. Herbert battled injuries all of last year. I know he's a tough guy, but in the games where he was hurt, he was not himself. I don't think he's going to be himself today. No one's really established themselves as the wide receiver one in that offense yet. I mean, they really haven't passed the ball a whole lot, so it's kind of hard to judge that. But from the Chargers side of things, you're probably going to struggle in the run game today. I don't think Dobbins is going to go for 100 plus yards against a Pittsburgh defense. I actually think he's going to be more so around like 50. I think him and Edwards are going to be about the same, 50 to 60 yards each. They are still splitting right down the middle, so you're really just expecting Dobbins to pop off for one like good 60-yarder. I don't see that happening here in this game, and I don't know. I agree with you. It's going to be lower scoring because both these defenses are pretty good. I'm impressed by the Chargers defense. I didn't think they're going to be as good as they were going into this year. Fields, like you said, hasn't been lighting up the world, but he has looked good, and I could see him having a decent game here with George Pickens. But I don't think that's going to lead to anything crazy. I'm talking like 60 or 70 yards, possible touchdown. And I do agree with you. I think it's going to be lower scoring here. Like 17-10 maybe.
Yeah. In order for the Chargers to win this one, they definitely need Dobbins and Edwards to have a good game to even give them a shot. Because I don't think, even with Herbert starting, I don't think he's 100%, and I think he's going to be slow go out there, which is not good against the tough Steelers D. That leads us into our next game, the Dolphins against Seattle at home. This was another tough game for me to pick, but I picked Seattle because of two reasons. One, they're at home and they're tough at home. And two, the Dolphins do have Thompson starting at quarterback. I do think Thompson has the potential to actually, have a really good game. I don't think their offense is going to be as bad as everybody thinks with Thompson in there. But I just think this is a tough one for Thompson to start off in on the road against Seattle. That's why I give Seattle the edge. I think Charbonnet is gonna, have a decent game against this Dolphins defense. I could definitely see him rushing for over 100 yards. I don't, I think that Metcalf and JSN both have the potential of having good games against this Dolphin defense. I actually think JSN might have a better game than Metcalf in this game. On the flip side of things, Thompson, it all comes down to him, right? He's the key of the game. Can Thompson play a mistake-free game on the road, and can he get the ball to Hill and Waddle? If Thompson comes out and he starts firing the ball and not making mistakes, hitting Hill and Waddle, it's going to be a long day for Seattle. I'm just not convinced that Thompson's going to be able to do that in such a hostile environment as Seattle. It's going to be loud. It's going to be his first game starting this year. I just don't know. I could see him potentially making some mistakes. But I also can see him having a good game. I'm gonna go, and I hate saying this because Wiggs is the statistical guy, but statistically, I think you got to give the advantage to Seattle because they're at home. They're one of the toughest home teams to play, and when you're playing a team that's coming in with a brand new starter this week, you got to give them the edge. So, anyways, I think this one could be, like a 2013 game, Seattle.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you gotta kind of go with the statistical side of things. It's a really hard building to play in just in general. It doesn't matter what the team is. They tend to keep games close. I think this is actually going to be a little bit higher scoring. Personally, I think it's going to be like a 24 to like 21 or 24 to 17 type game here. Actually, I'm going to lean towards the 24-17. I think the Seahawks will have a touchdown here on the Dolphins. And it could even be worse. I could see them blowing them out as well. I just am not sold on Thompson as their quarterback. It's going to be really reliant on how he plays here in this game. And like you said, he's going to have to get Tyreek the ball, going to have to get Waddle the ball. I just personally don't see that. Um, but who knows? I've been proven wrong before. I totally could be proven wrong here in this game as well. But I think it comes down to whether or not Thompson can get the ball to Tyreek. Because if you don't, you're going to struggle because you can't just rely strictly on your run game against the Seattle defense here at home. So
Yeah, I will say the one key player on the Dolphins offense that could impact the outcome is Achani. If he has a really good game and he can alleviate some of that pressure off of Thompson, then he could give the Dolphins a shot to pull off the win. But I'm not expecting a huge game from him. But who knows? He could prove me wrong. He could bust one off, and you just never know. These games this year have been crazy. So that leads us into our next game. Panthers on the road against the Raiders. Listen, the Panthers made the decision to go to with Andy Dalton at quarterback. They've been getting crazy amount of inquiries about Bryce Young and if he's available for trade. They're wishy washy. Oh, Bryce can be back this year, and we just need to give him a break. And listen, I don't know. The Panthers are a mess, and you're going up against the Raiders, who got a tough defense. Crosby, I think, is going to have a field day. Nothing against Andy Dalton, but um, uh, I just think that the Raiders defense is the key to this game. I think they're going to get a ton of pressure against Dalton. And Dalton, he's older. He doesn't move like he used to. So I think they're going to get multiple sacks in this game, and it's going to make it difficult. On the flip side of it, the Panthers' defense hasn't shown to me. They haven't shown me nothing so far. I think they're going to struggle against um, Devontae Adams. I think Devontae could have a good game. I also think that this is going to be Zamir White's first 100-yard game. I think he's going to come out. He's gonna have a good rushing game against these guys. I think he potentially could have a touchdown as well. I also think Jacoby Myers could have a good game. And then, if that's not enough, you got Brock Bowers there on offense as well. I just think that this game, as much as I'd love to pick the underdog and say that Dalton and these guys are going to come out and do it, I just don't think it's going to be this week. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a blowout. I mean, I think Dalton, may keep it close. But I still think the Raiders are going to win by 10, like 24-14.
yeah, I agree with you. I was gonna say 27-17. So the 10-point difference there was pretty close, but yeah, the Panthers are just looking grim. The one thing I will say, like defensively for them, they haven't been able to really prove themselves because their offense hasn't been able to keep them off the field. They've been on the field a lot more than their offense this year. So hopefully we'll see some offensive play here with Andy Dalton leading the field. I think if they can do that, the defense will look a little bit better. It's hard to have a good defense when they're out on the field the majority of the game, compared to your offense who has hardly been on the field because they can't get anything going whatsoever, run game or passing game. So I think over the next few weeks they'll look better. I think Andy Dalton will come out and have a decent game. I'm not going to say anything crazy. Maybe throw for 200 yards here in this game. He's definitely going to throw an interception because he hasn't played in a while, but I can see him throwing a touchdown or two with like an interception. Um, I don't really expect the run game to do a whole lot against the Raiders, but you could be surprised. But like you said, I think on the Raider side of the ball, they have a lot of weapons. So really, any one of like 4 or 5 players could pop off this week and have a really good week, go for over 100 yards and a touchdown. And I think they're just going to be too hard to stop this week with the amount of weapons they have. Um, it's just a matter of if Minshew makes mistakes or not.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they're at home in Las Vegas is a big help as well because that's a long flight for Carolina and stuff. It had it been a home game for Carolina, I could maybe go with the whole underdog story, but I just think it's going to be too much. So, with that said, we're jumping over San Francisco against LA. This is a game of injuries. I mean,
The wheelchair match.
yeah, CMC's out, Debo's out. LA's Puka's out, and Cup's out. These guys have lost some big playmakers on both of the teams. And even though that LA's home, it's at home. It really isn't going to be a home field advantage because LA's struggled to, get people to come out to their games that are all LA fans. A lot of times they have just as many fans from the opposing team as they do the Rams. So when the Rams and Chargers play there, anyways, I'm going with the team that I feel has the better playmakers that have proven themselves. I think you got to give the edge to the 49ers from a receiver perspective, and yeah, George Kittle is out as well, so that's a big hit. I see the running backs on I see the potential for the running backs of having a good game here. I think Jordan Mason's going to be heavily involved in the 49ers game plan. So I think that they're going to run the ball as much as they can to keep them out on the field. I think IU could potentially have a breakout game here. Because even though he doesn't have Debo on the other side, I think Jennings is a proven receiver, and he's proven it as their wide receiver 3 there. With the 49ers. So I don't think, they're losing Debo, who's a huge part of their offense, but I think that Jennings and the Ayuk are going to step it up and help out 49ers. On the flip side, I think if LA is going to have a shot here, they need Kyren to have a big game. Kyren's got to come out, and they got to get him involved in both the rushing and passing game. He's got to have a big game. He's got to keep them out on the field and keep San Francisco's offense out on the bench. They got to win the time of possession here. Nothing against the Robinson and Johnson that are going to be the receivers and stuff, but Johnson's still young. He had a good game. He had, but he's got to show consistency. Robinson is going to garner more attention because they don't have the other two guys. I think with the San Francisco defense, they're going to have a little bit more success than the Rams defense, in my opinion, and that's why I give them the edge. I don't think this is going to be a crazy scoring game by all means. Maybe 2013, 2010, something like that. And I give the advantage to San Francisco here.
Yeah, this is I'm gonna call it the wheelchair match because everyone is hurt in this dang game. It's gonna be an interesting one. I still think the 49ers are gonna look pretty good on offense. I think Brock Purdy will do Brock Purdy things even with guys that aren't on the field as much as like Debo would be. I think Jawan Jennings is probably the biggest sleeper this week in my eyes. I think he's going to have a really good game. He's already shown it behind 2 guys that he can come out and perform against teams. And I think he's going to be the main guy to watch there on this 49ers offense this week, as well as Jordan Mason, obviously. But I could see Jennings going for like 70 yards and a touchdown or something crazy this week. So on the flip side of things, I don't know how well this Rams offense is going to do. It's a lot worse off for them because you not only have Puka Nacua, your young blood basically on that offense who's really good out. You have Cooper Kupp who is supposed to be the healthiest he's ever been this year, and he's already hurt 2 weeks into the year. So, I just don't know if Tyler Johnson and DeMarcus will be like the answers here in this offense this week. I agree with you. I think Kyren's going to have to be heavily involved. And I'm going to go as far as saying I think Kyren should be lining up as a slot receiver or something in this offense at several points this week and having Blake Corum in the backfield or something vice versa around. I think you need to utilize both running backs here heavily in this game, and I think Kyren's going to have to be heavily involved in the passing game for them to have success this week. Not only in the passing, but obviously rushing as well. But I think he's going to have to be a key guy here in both the rushing and passing game.
Yeah, nope, I agree. So that leads us into the Lions versus the Cardinals at Arizona. Wiggs and I disagree on this one. Wiggs has got the Lions. I picked the Cardinals. This was another tough game for me. And here's the reason why I picked the Cardinals. I like the Lions. I like the Lions offense. Their defense has come along. I just think Dan Campbell and team just haven't found a way to close out games. And until I start seeing them close out games, I'm gonna start. I'm always gonna question if they're gonna be able to pull off a big game on the road. I think they're gonna struggle against Murray here. I think Harrison has the potential of having a big game this week. Although the DBs and the Lions backfield aren't that bad, but I still think he could have a big game. I think the key factor for the Cardinals on this one and the Lions is going to come down to their tight end play. I really do think that whichever tight end has the bigger game in this game, that's going to be the team that wins, and I give that advantage to McBride. I think McBride has I think he has the potential of having a really big game against this Lion defense. I think he's going to outplay Laporta because I think this Cardinals defense is better than the Lions defense, and they've shown it in their first couple games. And they're at home, so I give them, I'm giving them the home field advantage here as well. So I think this has a potential, though, to be a higher scoring game because there's a lot of big playmakers. You got St. Brown, you got Williams, you got Gibbs, you got Montgomery, you got Harrison, you got McBride, you got Connor, you go on and on. So I think this could be, I think this could be like, maybe a 34-28 type of game. And I give the advantage to the Cardinals.
I was going to say this is going to be like a 34-31 game because I do think it's going to be high scoring personally. I like both of these teams going into it. I just think the Lions need to close out the game. They've been in both their games so far this year, so just finish the dang game. Like, you were good at it last year, why aren't you finishing games this year? So it'll be interesting to see how both these teams do. I'm expecting the likes of the Lions to come out on top here by 3 points. I just think they have a lot more weapons in this offense personally, and I think they'll utilize that quite a bit more here.
Yeah, I think the other key factor, too, is the quarterback play. Is Goff going to be able to come on and have a good game against this tough Cardinals defense? Murray's got the advantage because he can actually, move around a lot better than Goff. So it'll be interesting, but that takes us into our next game. The Ravens at the Cowboys. Listen, yet again, the Cowboys, they just are not consistent. And they're at home, but I'm going with the Ravens here. The Ravens haven't been, consistent either. But I'm giving the advantage to the Ravens on this one because I think Lamar is going to come out and he's going to be the difference maker in this game. I think he's going to give the Cowboys defense everything that they can handle. They're going to have to keep an eye on him, and have a spy on him to make sure he doesn't, rush for the ball. I could see Lamar going for over 100 yards rushing in this game, to be quite honest with you. I think Matt Andrews is going to have a big game. I could see both Andrews and Likely, their tight ends, having big games here. And Zay Flowers might have struggle a little bit because because he's going to be paired up with the tough DB fielding in Dallas. On the flip side of things, listen, Dak has a great game. Then he doesn't have a great game. Their running backs can't do anything to save them. They couldn't run through the line right now if it was a big gap in there. I mean, they'd probably trip over their feet and end up losing 2 yards. So their backfield's terrible right now. They're not doing anything. Could CD have a big game? Yeah, he's CD, right? Anytime CD, he's like Jefferson. You put him out on the field, he could have a good game.
80 yards and a touchdown.
So I mean, yeah, he could have a good game. I think it just comes down to, which Cowboys team are we going to get this week? Are we going to get the Cowboys team where their defense looked like the best defense in the league week one, or are we going to get the Cowboys team where their defense looked like the worst defense in the league last week? So, to me, until I see some consistency here, even with them at home, I just feel like uh, the Ravens have shown a lot more consistency so far in the first two games. They got Derrick Henry in the backfield as well. I could see Henry and Lamar both going over 100 yards.
Oh yeah.
In this game. Which to me is going to lead into the time of possession, and it's going to limit the amount of times the Cowboys offense touches the ball. So that's another reason why I'm giving the Ravens an advantage here. I don't think this is going to be a crazy scoring game, but I do think the Ravens are going to win like 17-7.
Yeah, I think this is going to be around that like 20 to 14 type performance here this week. I just think it's going to be an interesting matchup because, like you said, the Cowboys went from looking like one of the best defenses at the start of the year to what the heck happened last week. Like, I get it was Saints offense that's clicking, but you can't just like flip the switch and all of a sudden not be good. So I don't know what to expect out of them here this week. I just went with the Ravens as a safe bet, even though I don't even think that's really the safest bet because the Ravens themselves have also not looked consistent. Don't get me wrong, the week one against the Chiefs, that's never going to be an easy matchup. But last week against the Raiders, you're giving up a lead like that? Like, nothing against the Raiders, but, like, I think defensively, you're clearly the better team of the two. And you're giving up points left and right. And then the offense couldn't click in the second half last week. So, I don't know. Both these teams last week were a disappointment. I didn't really feel comfortable making a choice between either of these teams. I just went with the Ravens edge because I think Lamar will be able to create more in this offense than Dak will be able to create today here against the Baltimore defense. So,
Yep, no, I agree. So that leads us into the next game, and I'm gonna pull a little switcheroo here, Wiggs. Um, Initially I picked the Chiefs in this game, but actually, you know what? I'm gonna go with the Falcons. So I'm gonna update it. You'll have to update our thing here. Sorry about that, man, but I'm going with the Falcons in this one. I've been thinking about it here, looking at this game. This was one of the toughest games, but you know what? I just got this feeling that the Falcons at home are going to pull off an upset against the Chiefs today. I think Kirk Cousins is going to have a good game. I think they're going to finally click in this game. I think that Cousins is going to find Drake London. Yes, he's offensive line isn't that great. He's going to have to deal with Chris Jones on the defense, but I just think that they're going to come in with a really good game plan to keep Bijan um, involved in this game. I think he could have a big game in this one. I also think Pitts could have a big game. I think the loss of Pacheco is going to be huge. I'm not sold on Steele. I think that he has potential. I'm just not sold. I think the Falcons have made some key acquisitions on defense. Travis Kelce hasn't really done nothing this year. Yeah, they got some good receivers. Yes, they got Patty Mahomes. But I just got this gut feeling that this is going to be an upset this week, and the Falcons are going to come out and they're going to beat them. I may end up eating my words and stuff, but I do think this is going to be a higher scoring game. I definitely see this potentially being 35, 35 to 31. I think it could come down to the last possession as well. It could come down to a game-winning field goal. I don't know. I just got this gut feeling that the Falcons are going to beat them, so I'm going to switch it up, and I'm picking the Falcons here. And I think the key to this game is Cousins going to be able to build off of his performance last week and keep it going. I think he can. Uh, you know, um, he's proven it in the past in tough games, and I think this is one here that he can. I think that not having a solid run game for Kansas City is. I think they're going to struggle rushing the ball, which is going to hurt them and stuff. And I just don't know that Patty Mahomes is going to be able to pull this one off. So I'm going with the Falcons in this one, 35-31.
I would love to see it be a high scoring game because I really genuinely think this Falcons offense has all the talent in the world. They just haven't performed um, yet here really at all this year, but I just can't go that far. I just think the weapons on the Chief right now have looked really good. Like, yes, you did lose your top running back, and I agree with you. I don't think Steele's going to be the guy. I don't even know if he'll be getting a majority of the reps next week. I think Kareem Hunt might take over quite a bit of that role. But I don't know. He could come out and shock us this week. We saw it with Jordan Mason there in week 1. I don't know. He could have a decent game. I just think you look at the offensive side of things. You have Rashee Rice. You have Xavier Worthy. I think with Pacheco being out, Kelsey's going to have a decent game. Um, I just think there's a lot more consistencies in this offense right now. You look at the Falcons, and Kirk Cousins had a really poor week 1. He had a decent week 2. He said last week he wasn't still fully healthy, but he's feeling better and better as the weeks go on. But I don't know. Like, you look at the Falcons offense and it hasn't been like crazy like I thought it was going to be so far. He hasn't really found Drake London a whole lot in this offense. He's found Darnell Mooney a decent amount. I think they're about even on receptions and yards at this point. Bijan's a beast. I just want to say that he is going to be one of the best running backs to watch over the next few years. He is just insanely good, both in that run game and in that receiving game. So I'm super impressed there. But I don't know. I don't think they're going to have that great of a game because I don't see them getting their tight end involved as much as they should be because they haven't done it yet to the States. They really have not done anything to get Kyle Pitts the ball. I think you need to get Kyle Pitts the ball to open it up for Darnell Mooney and Drake London. It's something we said last week with going to the Patriots game last week, getting Hunter Henry the ball. They did that in week 2. They beat the team they played, and then
I think Pitts is going to have 80 to 100 yards and a touchdown this week. That's my bold prediction. So I'm going out on a limb saying he's going to have 80 to 100 yards and a touchdown, and I think this Atlanta offense is actually going to find its mojo. And I know people are going to think I'm crazy, but listen, I'm still not sold on this KC team. Everybody, they're the Super Bowl champs and stuff, but I think that the Falcons are going to give them everything that they can handle this week. So so I switched my pick. I'm going with the Falcons, Wigs. So I may regret it, but I'm going with it. Let's go, Kirko. And that leads us into our Monday night games. We got 2 this week.
I know it's interesting.
So we got the Jaguars versus the Bills. Listen, the Jaguars to me are just like the Cowboys. I just can't. And the Titans, I just can't pick them because you don't know which team you're gonna get. Trevor Lawrence to me is, they signed him to a huge contract. He's not living up to that contract. They've got some solid young players on that offense, but they're just not producing, and which is sad because their defense really isn't that terrible. I just think going into Buffalo, they're going to struggle against this Bills defense. I think Josh Allen's going to give their defense everything they can handle. I like Brian Thomas. I think that was a great draft pick for the Jaguars. I do think that he's kind of taken over the number 1 spot from Kirk. I don't think Kirk has shown any consistency. Ingram's out. I think they're going to struggle. I do think Thomas still has the potential to have a decent game here, but it's not going to be enough to overcome this tough Bills team, and I will say this: Buffalo's looked a lot better than I expected them to this year. They really have. Yet again, they're surprising. They really don't have a true guy that stood out as their number one receiver right now. I do think they have a lot of potential guys like Coleman and Shakir, and stuff. Kincaid hasn't really had a great game. I mean, James Cook has been the difference maker on the offense along with Josh Allen, and Josh Allen's just kind of willed them to wins this year. And I think they're at home. They're just going to be too much for the Jaguars. I actually think this is going to be a like 28-14 game because I think Trevor Lawrence is going to struggle. I think ETN has, if there's any spot that you could potentially maybe take advantage of the Bills, it's in the rushing game. But I just don't think that ETN's going to have a huge game, and the Bills are going to overcome that. So that's and I think Kincaid's actually going to have a decent game today, or on Monday as well. So, Wiggs, what do you think?
I think this is going to be relatively interesting. I do think the Jaguars do have the talent on the offense to put up decent points. I just think it all depends on how Lawrence plays at the end of the day because he has not performed for what he's, supposedly worth here in the NFL. And it's kind of disappointing to see that because you'd expect someone who's being paid that much to put up, like, Patrick Mahomes type numbers or something where you're putting up a solid amount of points. And they really haven't. They haven't done anything impressive this year at all. Brian Thomas, I agree with you, is their top receiver. Even as a rookie, he is easily the go-to guy. You have Gabe Davis, who I think is the wide receiver 2 on this team, and a really good deep ball threat. I just haven't seen like a whole lot out of this offense to be like, oh my god, they're gonna win a game. And that's sad to say because I still don't think this Bills offense is fully clicking onto all cylinders. I think they got bailed out by James Cook having a great week last week. I mean, he ran for what? He had over 100 scrimmage yards and 3 touchdowns last week. Like, I mean, when you're doing that with Josh Allen that had a bum hand, he doesn't have to do anything in that game. And Josh Allen did nothing in that game that, willed them to a win. That was the James Cook show. That was all they needed last week. I mean, it got them the win, so they didn't really have to throw the ball or anything. I think they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more here in this game, and I really need to see who's going to be like those top 2 targets for Josh Allen because we really haven't seen anyone picked out from not only the receiving core, but we haven't seen Kincaid involved really at all so far this year, which is kind of a shock because he was really involved last year, and I don't know if that's just because they haven't established like a solid wide receiver 1 that's drawing attention away from him, but it'll be interesting. I still give the Bills the win here in this game. I think it's going to be like a 24-14 game or 24-17. I think ETN will run one in. I think we'll see at least one deep ball thrown from Lawrence that'll end up in a touchdown. So we'll kind of just gel pans on out. But I do think the Bills will win at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think Kincaid and Coleman will actually have decent games this week. That's just my bold prediction there. So that leads us into the last game of the week. The Commanders against the Bengals at Cincinnati. Wiggs and I are a little bit different here. This is, probably another upset here that I'm picking. Listen, yeah, the Bengals got Higgins back this week, which is good. I mean, so they'll have Chase and Higgins. They got a decent rookie wide receiver that you throw in there, and stuff. So, but even with Higgins back, I think it's still going to take him a game or two to get the rust off and stuff. I'm not convinced that their rushing game is going to give them the balance that they need. Zach Moss, like Wiggs talked in an earlier video, has struggled so far this year. Chase Brown hasn't really done anything to really take over the number 1 spot. Now maybe he hasn't been given an opportunity. I don't know. I just got a really good feeling about this one in the sense that I think Brian Robinson Jr. is going to have another big game against this Bengals defense. I personally hope that Daniels and McLaurin figure it out this week, and maybe McLaurin, busts out and has a big game. I also think Jaden Daniels is going to keep his rookie growth going and show everybody that why he should have probably been the number 1 pick this year. but so I think he's going to progress even more against this Bengals defense. I mean, they're not bad, but they're not great. They're just in the middle of the pack. I think Daniels, I think he has a chance to rush for 30 to 50 yards in this game as well. But I'm hoping to see a lot more out of the passing game, and hopefully they get the ball to McLaurin this week. And to me, he's going to be the difference maker. On the flip side, I don't know what's going on with this Bengals offense. I think there's a lot of stuff that they need to get out in the open and figure out in the locker room. I think Chase's contract dispute has had a bigger impact than people have let on with the Bengals. I think it's impacted, his performance out on the field. Um, could Chase have a big game? He could. I don't know, but I'm not banking on it this week. I think there's some issues there between him and Burrow that they need to work out, and they need to get that chemistry going again because he hadn't practiced that whole time he was sitting out. So, and Higgins coming off the injury, like I said before, I think it's going to take him a game or two to get the rust off. So, I'm picking the Commanders in an upset here.
Originally I did have the Commanders as the team I had winning this game. The only swing factor was, well, I guess there's two. Their defense hasn't looked that great. And I think someone like Joe Burrow could pick it apart a little bit, not like a crazy amount, because like you said, they haven't really been clicking on offense, but they haven't looked that great. I mean, you're playing a Giants offense that realistically going into the year was probably ranked like the worst offense, and they gave up a decent amount of points last week. You got a major difference from Joe Burrow to Daniel Jones there, so I think he'll be able to pick them apart a little bit. I think T. Higgins will actually be the top guy on the team this week. Something about Burrow and Chase right now is not clicking. I don't know if they're just not on the same page or if there's some beef there or something.
I don't think there's a beef. I just think they didn't have the time because he wasn't practicing, and even though they had the connection before, you still need time to practice.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know, it's just weird. And Burrow really hasn't looked his way a crazy amount, even in like the red zone so far. So I don't know, that's the one swaying factor there for me. Is just the defense from the Commanders, because I think the Bengals will be able to put together a pretty decent offense this week here in week 3. On the flip side of things, I don't know, dude. Like, this Commanders offense just could not finish a drive last week in a touchdown. It was field goal, field goal, field goal, field goal. I mean, they won the game off field goals. So I'll give them credit. They were able to at least get the ball down the field, but they just couldn't finish a drive. And if you can't finish the drive this week against the Bengals, I just don't see you winning a game. I'm hoping they do, because obviously I have Jaden Daniels literally in every single one of my fantasy leagues. So I'm really hoping Jaden Daniels comes out, throws a touchdown or runs in some touchdowns. I totally think he could do that. He's just got to stay composed within the 20. I know it's harder once you get in that range because, it's more condensed. You don't have a lot of open area, but you just need to stay composed and get your guys the ball. I want to see him get something going with Terry McLaurin, because Terry McLaurin is a freaking beast. I need to see some sort of connection there this week. Please, just let me see it. That's all I want to see is him throwing the ball at Terry McLaurin, because I think him and McLaurin could have a solid connection. Daniel showed last week he can throw the ball pretty well. And obviously he can rush the ball. He's shown he can both run and rush, or pass and run the ball so far here this year. Now he's just got to put the two together, get his playmaker and Terry McLaurin the ball. He should be the number one guy in this offense. He hasn't been so far, so please get a connection with Terry McLaurin, because y'all could be beasts together.
Yeah, and again, I think I agree with you, Wiggs. You can't rely on kicking field goals to win the game. I think that each week they're taking steps forward. So I think this week they're going to finish some drives. I really do. I think Daniels has been progressing, and I think they're doing a nice job with him. They just need to figure out, how to finish drives. I mean, because to your point, Wiggs, they're doing something right because they're getting the ball down the field, right? Yeah. So, and the Giants' defense isn't anything to sneeze at. So, I mean, they're not bad. So you just need to be able to finish the drive. I think this week they will. And then in regards to the defense, I agree with you, Wiggs. Their defense needs to figure it out. I got faith in Dan Quinn though. He's got a good reputation, you know, as a defensive coordinator. You know, when he was with the Cowboys, you know, I think he can flip things around with the Commanders defense. I think it's just going to take some time as they keep going longer into the season. You know, and maybe today's the day where or Monday's the day where they show that they can step up and stuff. So I think the key factors to finishing the drives for the Commanders is they got to figure out how to get Eckler, Robinson, you know, more involved in the red zone touches. They also got to figure out how can they get the ball to McLaurin down there as well. Um, I also think they need to take advantage of their tight ends and Ertz and Sanat, you know, down in the red zone. I think that's a key, you know, for them. But I mean, you got Eckler, who's proven to be a red zone, you know, demon. So you know they got to figure out ways to get him the ball down in the red zone because obviously they're giving the rock to Robinson and they're using Eckler mainly in passing situations and stuff like that. So figure out, you know, run the Wildcat, do something, figure something out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So and I think they will. You know, I'm a little bit. I shouldn't say really surprised, but I'm pleasantly surprised that their offense has looked as good as they have so far in regards to at least moving the ball.
Yeah.
Like they have.
Because we thought they were going to struggle right away. At
Right,
year,
right.
They really haven't.
And so. Daniels has come out and he's kind of shut up some critics about his play. So I think he's he's continued to grow. And he's going to continue to do that. I mean, I would hate to be a team that plays this Commander team, you know, after week 6.
The one thing I really respect about Daniels right now is the fact that after week 1, he came out and said he needs to settle down in the pocket and get his receivers the ball because he cannot be running as much as he did. And then the next week, he literally comes out and does exactly that. He throws for over 200 yards, makes drives go down the field. Like, he is a man of his word, basically, at this point, and he's really impressed. I think with him kind of coming out there in week 1, showing that he can run the ball, and then coming out in week 2, and then showing he can pass the ball, it's going to be really hard to play defense against this guy, because at any given point, you throw a pass downfield, complete it, or at any point, he could just take off for a 60-yard run, and it's going to be really hard to play against him. And I genuinely want to pick Washington this week as an upset. I just don't think I'm there just yet. I just want to see a few more things here, but I think this team's going to be a lot better than at least I thought going into the year, and I think they're going to keep a lot of games close, or they're going to be winning a lot of games I didn't think they'd win.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is going to be a 30-24 type game, and I'm giving the edge to Washington. I really do think their offense is going to figure it out. And boy, you know, if I'm other teams that are playing them this year, I'm hoping that their offense doesn't figure it out, because if their offense starts figuring out how to finish off these drives, they're going to be scary, and they're going to be able to compensate for some of their deficiencies on their defense until they can figure that out with the scoring potential they have on their offense. So, with that, Wiggs, you got anything else to add? You know, I just did see, just to give you a quick update, Spears is supposed to be playing for the Titans, so hopefully that might help them against Green Bay. So, so that should be interesting to see how that works out. So, well, with that, again, check us out, Fantasy Fools PPR on YouTube. We're also out on Snapchat, X, TikTok, Instagram. Like, subscribe, share. Send us any feedback that you have. If you have any questions or need some advice on your lineups, you know, we're always willing to, you know, give you our thoughts. Hopefully you're finding this as another resource that you can go to for your, you know, fantasy football, you know, decisions and stuff. So, and with that, I think we'll talk again soon, and we'll see you next time.